this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Spur of the moment. Just finished watering my mounts, and this is one of the last ones that I get at in the sequence that I do them. And it's gone all this season and produced virtually no roots, and the root system it's got is old and tired. And I've just noticed a couple of the new roots have had their ends chewed off. This has got snails, I'm confident. So it's coming off. And while I'm at it, I've got a lovely kiki here, and I think we'll have that off as well. So it should just peel off, being that size. Now what we have to do now is decide, do we mount this with the rest of the plant, or do we start a separate plant? You know, that's got a good root system, but the size of the kiki, that's a good root system. It's active. I think I'll mount that separately and start it again, because I know that bit hasn't got any snails. Right, I've got clutter all over the place. First job, get it off the mount. So that's just a matter of snipping away and pull, or possibly tear. And as I thought, because it's a large plant, it did actually get wired on. It did get a wire put round. So we'll have that off as well. Right, the fishing line should just pull through. It's easily done. So that's that all gone. And then the wire should just pull round. Yes. Right. Now you'd expect the plant to fall off, wouldn't you? No chance. Now what I've got to do is, this is going to have to be torn off. But I want to do it in such a way that I don't damage any of the new roots. Don't mind the old ones getting broken, they're not very good anyway. The new ones need to be good. Any old ones that peel off, that's fine, if they make it. And if they don't, tough, I've got new ones coming. Right, that's got it off. That can go straight in the sink. I'm just going to have a quick look. The trouble is, the sort of snails I'm on about are tiny, and they'll be right down in all these crevices. Therein lies half the problem, is the number of crevices, I suspect. This has been on this mount since I got it, I think. What I plan on doing is actually mounting it on that side this time round. There's far less hiding places, but anyway, let's get that out of the way in the sink. Got all the muck off my hands. Now it's just a matter of cleaning up. Have I got any canes to come off? Yeah, that one can come off. It's so badly shriveled it's doing no good. So we get that out of the way first. It's the only cane to actually come off, I think. What about that one? So that one's broken, that's what's wrong with that one, but there's still possibilities of storing energy in there. It won't bloom, I suspect, but sorry, that's got a bit of rot in it, that one. I'm just coming back to clean tissue. Yeah, that's okay now. So that's that. It's an old kiki, that can come off. I'm just having to tidy up while I'm here. Right, now what have we got? What we've got is some very old, totally degraded moss for a start, so that's not doing the root system any good. It's a bit smelly as well. As I say, it's been on here a long time. Now normally on a mount, you don't normally have to worry about the moss, because it ends up, over time, most of it gets washed off. You know, as you water, bits come off each time. Gradually it gets less and less, and in some cases it often starts to grow again. So I just want to get as much of this old moss out as possible, and I will give it a good wash under the sink, under the tap, give it a good rinse off. And so we haven't got many new roots on there, but we have got some, and some of them have got green tips. But that's been chewed off, that one, completely, as has that one. And there's another piece of this plant that's coming off to part of the original plant. When I got it, it had been chopped off a tree, I believe, and this bit of the plant didn't have canes as such. So those bits can come off while we're at it. And now what I'm going to do is trim this old root system to give the new roots a place to be. Now some of these may branch, and some may not. What are we doing? I won't take too much off, I suppose. Quite a the ones I'm taking off are new ones that have died back, not old ones. But it is capable of branching, this root system, so we'll give it a chance if it wants to. Right, that will probably do. I don't go, no point in going too mad, but I'd like the new roots to have like a clean start. Fresh moss, a new section of mount to get hold of that won't have any snails, that's for sure. So there's just a few stringy bits to trim. Turn the plant round. Oh, there's a scale there. Keep your eye out on those. What that's been next to get them there. This is right up in the roof, and my mounts, the mounts that are up in that section, don't have scale. But I know where that's come from. There's a Nobly down below, probably prima donna in that section. And if this has been hanging down and touching it, then that's all it needs is a little ladder between the two, and they'll be off. It might have been just an odd one, I can't see any more. Oh well, keep your eye on it. I mean, when I do the spray they all get done, but quite a lot of the plants don't get done if they've never had scale, if you see what I mean. I don't see any point in giving them an absolute soaking when it's not necessary, especially as we're not getting the hot weather that we've had in the past, so you know they've still got to dry out. So there's still a stumpy bit there that I want off. Right, now before I get any water on that, we'll give that a good go with the hydrogen peroxide right in between all those canes. Give the whole base an absolute soak in the sink. Get rid of this rubbish, and as I say, I'm going to reuse that mount. That'll get boiling water poured over it a couple of times, and I'll go and find a suitable new mount, I think, for that one. And we've got to make the decision, do we plant it upright? It's still growing at the moment, and they naturally grow upright, but then they arch and they eventually hang down. But to enable them to do that, they've got to be vigorous enough for the cane to get long enough and heavy enough to be able to do that. Otherwise they stay upright. So if your canes are undersized and underweight, they won't arch. If you plant them upside down, they're already that way inclined, if you see what I mean. So they've started the ball rolling. But anyway, we need a little mount for that, and get rid of this mess. do the mount in the sink, give that a good go with the boiling water, and then we'll come back and see what we can do. So I'll be back. Okay, well, you can't boil the kettle without making a coffee, can you? Not this time of day. I'm not usually in the kitchen messing about pre-lunch. It's normally late afternoon when I've finished all my other junk that I have to do. But today I got on and watered my mounts quite early. Here's a theory, nothing to do with mounting orchids, but to do with looking after them. You know, we've had the problem with the pitting, the cell collapse, mesophil cell collapse, or whatever it's called, and all the writings you can find, and there ain't a lot, you know, like half a dozen items in the whole of the internet sort of thing, so not a lot's been written, and its main cause is cold. It's cell damage and collapse due to cold. Now that can be cold water and it can be cold air, yeah? Not suitable for that orchid. Don't forget, some orchids can go down near freezing and survive quite happily, and often do in the wild. That's their way, but some don't, and they'll object, and this cell collapse is one of the ways that it will manifest itself. But I have a theory that probably has happened in my grow space. When I've got stuff to do and things, I end up sometimes watering my plants, I'll say my orchids, because it doesn't matter which watering set they come into. The exception will be the cooler, shadier ones, and they haven't got any, and that's what triggered my thoughts. Those on the high shelves and up near the roof, when the weather's hot, yeah, those plants are quite warm. The whole structure is quite warm. Now in my house, it isn't going to be anywhere near that warm, is it? So you could be looking at plants that are actually up near the 30s, yeah? And the water they're about to get watered with could be 18, 19 degrees. And when it's hot like that, a plant's metabolism is fast, yeah? Water can come in at the bottom and get out through the top quite quickly. So how about watering warm plants in a warm environment where their metabolism is ultra fast with water that's a lot colder? Not cold, but a lot colder. So relative to the plant temperature, the water's cold. A theory. Try proving that. Which I'm not going to attempt to do. It is nothing more than thoughts based on those that have it and those that don't, and trying to identify differences. And some of those differences are microclimates, different environments. As I say, near the roof's the warmest place. Right, now unlike the Spice Girls, that's two become one, or I'm not going to do the hands, this is one becomes two. That was embarrassing. I've now admitted I know what the Spice Girls sing. Yeah, well, when I used to work on the cars, which is going back a bit, the radios were on in the cars a lot of the time, so I was subjected to that mundane rubbish that plays on the radio all day long. For others in the car, when I was in the car on my own, I didn't have the radio on. But you know, when you've got others around. Right, so I think that's going to tuck in there. I don't mind if all the roots don't actually get in a place where they can attach, but the shorter ones should. And if I turn it over to get the roots on there, the plant can go at a funny angle. Let's do it like that. I want the plant quite low down, because in this particular case the roots are mainly going to go upwards and outwards. They're not going to go that way much. Not until it gets a substantial root system. So I think we can come down a bit lower there. And getting this plant to stay firm on there is nothing more than a couple of turns. That really doesn't need much at all. But I'm going to put it on that flat bit so that most of the roots are close in. Right, and this has just reminded me that I'm nearly out of fishing line. We really haven't got a lot left. And so I need to go and get some. I can't buy it online because I don't know the gauge that this fishing line is at, and obviously I don't want to get anything that's either a lot thinner or a hell of a lot thicker. I want something similar to this, because this has worked quite nicely over the time I've been using it. So I need to take it in to the fishing tackle shop and say, excuse me sir, Mr. Seller Man, give me some of that. I probably won't need to buy anything as big as that. That was given to me by my son when he got rid of all his fishing stuff. I said, I'll have that. That'll be useful for tying on. And he didn't know what gauge it was. It's not written on there, and I don't know what gauge it is. So I'm going to have to go and say, I want some like that. It doesn't have to be exact, does it? But like that. And then I'll have another lot of that to carry on doing this for God knows how many more years. Now normally I would put the fishing line on first, but all those who are taking a deep breath, ready to type in and tell me off, I don't need two hands. Yeah, this fishing line is going to replace my thumb, and that one turn has got it. And now that doesn't often happen. In which case tying the fishing line on first really does help a bit, but it's not so important in this particular case. You just need that to be adjusted before I put the second turn round so that the plant's in the place I want it, which is about there, like that. That is digging in a bit, I better loosen that off and go round a second time. Come on, tighten. Oh, pulling the wrong bit. Right. Go around a bit lower down on the plant, that will lock it in place, and then once I get some moss on, which isn't going to be much, that's for sure. You notice there's something missing. We're working on the bare surface here, we've got no newspaper. I've actually run out of newspaper, and I don't buy the flipping things. There's a very special type of news in newspapers, it's called yesterdays, and I don't need to know what happened yesterday. I'm more interested in what's happening now, so I would rather go online or use the TV. It's always bad news anyway, so I don't know why I bother. So what I've done is I've put some moss down, and then I'm going to put some live moss on the top that will hopefully grow and make a nice pad of green. And then I'm going to loosely wrap round that. It doesn't need to be tight, it's only to hold the moss in place. And some of those roots are hard up against the mount and therefore should attach as they grow. That's the one thing with mounts you can almost guarantee, is that old roots will never attach and new roots will only attach if they're growing, because it's the bit that's growing that will attach, not the bit that's already there. And that's how they work. It's the growth tip that will move and think, hello, there's something here I can get hold of, and it will. And then any branches that come out will do the same thing, but old roots won't, they just sit there. But they're handy to have to tie things on with. I say I don't need to put a tag on there. I should, but I'm not going to. I haven't got the time or the patience at the moment, and I've still got my holy clay pots to water. And that'll be after lunch, not before. Right, so that'll do for that little one. Hopefully that'll get going. It's plenty firm enough. Roots up against it. These will probably grow on. If they come outwards, they'll stay aerial. However, if they decide to head away from the light, they may well attach along the top. But that's a wait and see. So that's that one. Right, now the fun one. This one had 2 lots of water poured all over it because it's very deeply creviced. Now if anything survived that, it's welcome to live. But that got absolutely drowned in boiling water and then done again. And the plant's not going on that bit, it's going on that bit, and that bit got done as well. There's not many crevices on there, but that doesn't matter. And as far as the hook is concerned, that's that done. Just turn it round basically. Now this is a big enough plant that I'm probably going to have to wire it on. It was wired on before and there was a reason for that. so I think I'm probably going to have to do it again. So let's bring it over and see what it looks like. Now what I've got on here is one cane that's still growing and another cane behind it that's still growing. Both of them are short, but they are still growing, and I've still got some roots with green tips. Some have been eaten off, and hopefully those will progress. And we've still got time for some new ones to come out, but I'm not taking the old canes off. Right, so that's going to have to go like that. Where am I going to put a wire? I think if I wire this, I'm going to have to go across the plant, and obviously I don't want to damage my two new canes, which are these two. So it's going to have to go behind those two and in front of that big one there, and that should hold it on, and then we'll tie some moss on afterwards. God, I haven't wired anything for ages. I don't normally need to. And I've run out of my thin wire, but this bonsai wire is so flexible that it doesn't matter that it's not thin. It still does what you want. It still bends. Very bendy stuff, this. What sort of wire it is? Some sort of aluminium, I believe. Right, so we're going to go behind the two new ones and in front of the old one, about there. Most of the plant down the bottom of the mount. Roots will go outwards and upwards, and that will do. So if we take that round the back now, and then we'll go and fetch it with the other piece, but I want it hooked so that it doesn't come undone while I'm pulling this one. We can pull it tight with the pliers when we get round the other side. Right. I need more. I've done that quite wrong. We need a lot more around there before we start bending and grabbing hold of things. Somewhere like that. Let's put that down gently for a minute while we get these two ends. Give them a twist. That, so that I've got something to get hold of. Cut the ends off so you don't poke your eye out while you start waggling things around. Then get the pliers and start to twist in the same direction as you've started, otherwise you'll undo what you've already done. And as you twist, it will pull tight. It will take up the slack. And then what you do before it gets too tight is go around the other side and make sure everything's in where it should be, like so, and it's holding the plant sufficient that it's not going to waggle around too much, and that can be a bit tighter. Not too much though. Yeah, we can go a bit tighter with that. Bend that down out of the way. Right, so that's the wire that's basically got the plant now. I'm just going to do a bit of adjusting because I want the two new canes over the top of anything else. This is difficult because the long dangly canes keep pushing things away from where I put them, if you see what I mean. Let's hang them over the edge, do it like that. That's better. And in addition to that, I know this is a bit difficult, but I'm going to drag that plant over here because the new growths are coming out on that side of the plant, and I want those to have some room in future years to grow. Right, now, are you going to sit there nicely? Yes. Right, let's just hope I've got, whoops, knock the camera over, why don't you? Let's just hope I've got enough fishing line. Hope all of this this ends up on the camera somewhere. When you're working like this and the camera's on a tripod, you don't even think about the camera. So you could be doing half of this off the top of the screen and you can't see a flipping thing. I'm having to unwind quite a bit. That's a very wide mount width. Yeah, so each turn is double that. So each turn is that long. Yeah, so it's going to need a... And I'd rather waste a little bit than not have enough. So we'll go for about that, which is quite a bit on the floor there. But we'll see how we get on. And then next time I go out in the car, I shall have to go and see about getting some more. To be a face mask again. I hate that. Still, it makes sense. In my book, it should have been done a lot earlier. It's just common sense at the end of the day. If your breath gets held back to a degree, it doesn't matter if it's not perfect, to a degree, then it's bound to be doing some good, isn't it? And if everybody else is doing the same thing all around you, the risk goes right down. It doesn't eradicate the risk, but it goes right down. So instead of 10 people getting infected, perhaps only 1 or 2 do. Does this not make sense? Ugh. So anybody objecting to that is an idiot, a half-wit. When do your human rights override the human rights of all the others around you? The answer is never. Right, let's see if we can get some moss on. Again, I'd like some live moss on here, you know, that can hopefully catch. The problem with the winter resting type Dendrobiums with live moss is the moss has got to go for quite long periods in the winter with no water. I don't know though, with the lower temperatures it does seem to hang in there just about. I suppose it's only relatively recently I've even started using live moss. Right, well that's the non-live moss, and I've gone away from the plant in that gap. Yeah, that's the gap where the next canes are going to be. So in theory there'll be some moss there ready and waiting for those canes to grow their new roots, which is next year. That's not this year, but there's some there already and I don't have to adjust. This is, you notice this is sticking up in the air? Well, that's what the tie's going to have to do. It's going to have to pull these roots and the moss down because they're at an angle at the moment, but they will come down. And I'm going to have to go on a trek and get some more moss. I don't really want to do that either, but the place I go to get to the moss, there won't be anybody there. Very occasionally a bird watcher. Once I went to that place and there was somebody doing a survey. They were actually doing a survey of the density of the sundew, the little sundew plants that grow in amongst the sphagnum moss. But it's not the sphagnum moss I go to get, that's strangely enough. One side of the track is a bog, basically, a heath bog, a very acidic heath bog. And some of the sort of areas you look at, covered in sphagnum moss, they're 6 foot deep. You attempt to walk across that, you'll be in up to your neck. So they're very dangerous places for idiots who don't know what they're doing. There are places you can walk and you can see them. Once you get to know the terrain, you know which bits are firm and which bits are not. And you don't tread on those that are not. You can make your way across that bog very carefully, and so be it. But the other side of the track goes down the middle. The other side of the track is raised up and is more like a forest than a bog, and that's where the other types of moss grow, in the shade of the trees. So it's a very unusual area. There's several habitats. In some areas there's grass, other areas it's just bare pine needles, you know, under the heavy shade, and other places you've got heather and ferns and that sort of thing. It's quite a diverse little area for habitat. I quite like it there, basically because nobody goes there really. It really is quite a tranquil area, or it would be if it wasn't alongside, or part of it, alongside the A338. Endearingly in this area known as the Spur Road, which is our main access road into the area basically, so it's a bit busy, big dual carriageway, or in my case it's my way out of the area, but yeah, it does get busy, so there's a little bit of traffic noise, but well, it's not too bad. I'll tie this a bit different this time because my first loop came loose, so I'm just going to have to pull against that one. Not quite what I normally do, but it'll do as long as it goes tight. Got something to pull against. There we go. Around once more. Got a loose end, just as well use it up. Come on, get in there. Thank you. All fingers and thumbs today. That's not tight. Now it is. That's the worst knotting I think I have ever done. Right. What have we got round the front? Have we got a firm plant? Yes. Plant's firm. Two latest canes have got room to move across, and our moss is firm enough to start growing, and our new roots should go straight into it. I haven't buried them in moss. I can still see a root tip there, but it's growing, so it will now grow into the moss and make its way through to the bark. So there we go, that's two done, the big one and the little one, so one becomes two. I know it might sound strange, but in 2 years' time this could well be the better plant because it's starting afresh. The cane itself is still growing, so that will get bigger this year. There won't be any new growths, but then next year it'll be dependent on whether it decides to push out 1 or 2 canes on top of the one it's got. Probably only do 1 next year. But providing it's got the root system to go with it, that will be a full-size cane. And then we're away then. Whereas this one, I mean, if you look, that kiki is nearly as big as these canes. This is not growing well, it's stalling. It's just not progressing as well as it should. But hopefully now it will. And I certainly don't want to be without a Dendrobium anosmum. Even though the flowers are relatively short-lived, they're very attractive. And you've got the heavenly scent filling the grow room, not a mild jobby. This is a serious fragrance on this one, and it's raspberries. It smells of fresh raspberries. So there we go, bit of kitchen work. And so get these back where they go, and finish my coffee, and then get on and water my holy clay pots, and then that's it for the day then. And this is morning time. This won't get posted till later in the day. I'm just going to put that down. I want to show you my new toy. I'll be back. Right, doubt if these will get used much this year, so they're really looking forward till next year. But there's no discount or anything, so these were got the best price I could get, which was quite a lot of money. I got myself some new binoculars, serious binoculars this time. Not the Toy Town ones that I've got at the moment. So this is a seriously good stuff. These are sealed, gas filled, so they can't mist up. Totally waterproof, down to about 1 metre I think before they would, before any water would get in. Lovely big focus thing, and those move in and out for people who wear glasses so that you can get comfortable. Yeah, good stuff. And they're, I've forgotten what they are now, 20 by 50, 10 by 50, sorry. 10 by 50, so they're a lot more powerful than what I currently got, which, as I said, they make my current binoculars look like the sort of thing you need to give to the kids to play with. These are just infinitely better. They just feel far more professional, and yeah, I'm well pleased with that. That did cost a bit, I must admit, but it's a good brand, and it's not their top model, but it's good stuff, and the clarity is absolutely superb. What I noticed straight away as soon as I looked through them was not so much the clarity, because when I first looked through they were out of focus, it was the brightness. There's no loss of light, so when you look through them you see what you see. You know, the others used to, you know, like looking through the dark. So new toy, probably more for next year than this year. They've got strap and everything with them, which I haven't fitted up yet. Nice case to keep them in, and yeah, good stuff. I've been thinking about getting a decent set of binoculars for some considerable time, so job's done now, and yeah, I look forward to using them when I'm out and about. Now, since I got them, which isn't that long ago, I haven't actually been anywhere to use them apart from in the garden. I've had a look round at a few things in the trees out there. It's good stuff. So there we go, new toy, and I'll see you next time.